Hello, this is just a debriefing of our attendance of the Smart Factory Expo 2018, which happened in November. I attended the show last year as a member of the public, but wrote off actually having a stand there this year just due to the cost. We are currently in a bootstrapping round, and so to minimise costs is very important at the moment. However, we did have a nice email from the KTN, which is part of Innovate UK, on the 25th of September, inviting us along to actually have a stand there, which is a fantastic email and just goes to prove that every month something new occurs and you can't expect it. This gave us a month and a bit to prepare for it, which means we didn't have a whole year to prepare for it, which added a little bit of stress, but also gave us our first deadline, which we met. The software came together quite well. It is modular, and we created just a simple demonstration that rotated. It wasn't very glamorous, but it did the job in showing off a few of the extensions of the MultiPlug. And also the actual stand itself. Majority of it was created by Sharon Jones at the Eagle Lab in Bournemouth. She took a scribbled piece of paper and converted it into something that looked semi-professional. I would say professional. She was able to cut it, paint it, and apply all the stencils and the logos. And I couldn't have done it without her. So thank you very much to Sharon from Barclays Eagle Lab in Bournemouth. So the month and a bit notice gave us our first deadline, which was a good thing to have after so long. We haven't really had a deadline to meet, and we met it. I guess the only downside of that was the notice period. I couldn't invite anyone else to join me on the day, so I had to be on my own. I'm sure a few of the people that have contributed to the journey so far would have liked to have attended, but unfortunately due to notice we couldn't work that out. The stand itself was as expected. Obviously I attended last year, so I kind of knew what to expect. The formation was two parallel stands of a great length of Innovation Alley, which is what they called it. We were on the outside of those parallel stands, which gave us probably the best position. The visitors of the show were able to approach us without having to be intimidated by going down the central channel. The downside of being there was we were actually next to two empty stands, no shows situations. They were clearly labelled up, but they weren't there. I felt sorry for. We had one neighbour. Well, we had two neighbours, one behind us and one next to us. But I was a bit sorry for the stand that was two on from us, who was pretty much on their own. Again, there's for and against for that kind of situation. If you're down the channel, people were committed to walk down the channel and therefore see everything of it. If you're on the edge, where we were, people can kind of selectively go to different people along the edge. So I would say that we had the perfect situation. The stand next to behind us, they tried to display their signs facing over our stand, because they were trying to get the through traffic of our little bit, which kind of leads me on to the stand itself. As I said, big help from Barclays Eagle Labs to create it. The actual demonstration was brilliant. It really showed off what the MultiPlug could do. One thing that does niggle me a little bit, because it could have been so easy to change, which was just to display a poster to say what it was doing. I mean, that I could have done that, but it got to a point towards the end, where towards the start of the show, the kind of weekend before, where I kind of said to myself, I want to relax now, I want to de-stress. But a poster to simply say what the MultiPlug does, what fog computing is, an A1 or A0 size poster would have done the job of the marketing of the stand. But apart from that, I mean, I was really happy with the stand. The actual stand, as I say, we've got neighbours either side, and we got one behind us, but there was no real partition between us. And I know it's a comment from last year of someone I spoke to who was also using Innovation Alley, that there's a lack of a partition, and so sometimes it can get confusing to people that are walking by what they're actually looking at. Are they looking at my stand, or are they looking at the stand behind me? And again, because the posters were positioned in certain ways to attract certain people's attention, sometimes there was confusion. Sometimes people would approach me to talk to the people behind me. So I hope that next year they can come up with just a little bit more of a partition between them. So as I was on my own, I had to attend to the stand throughout the show, which meant that it was difficult to network within the show. So it's hard to actually have a feeling of what the show was like this year compared to last year, because last year I was literally going around on both days, networking, talking to people, where this year I was pretty much anchored to my stand. I did wander off a few times, but it wasn't a great deal amount of the time. So for a network point of view, that was quite poor. Secondly, just being able to judge what the show was like. They told me it was bigger than last year. It didn't feel bigger, it felt the same size. I was told that it's bigger, but they've spread things out a little bit more. And at the end of the show, I was given a map of next year, and it looked much, much bigger. Interestingly, I'm sure I saw that map last year. So I'd be interested to see if they actually do grow the show next year. So we use the show to soft launch the MultiPlug Fog Computing Platform, and I've already described at the end of the show in another video how that went. Brilliant partnership with Brainboxes is really going to help us. Was able to demonstrate to Brainboxes how the MultiPlug can work with them. Again, going back to the stand, it was again a bit confusing whether we were there for the MultiPlug, whether we were there for Brainboxes, or whether we were there for the company of 4IR.UK British Systems, and they are three separate entities. The MultiPlug is the software platform we develop onto. 4IR.UK is actually the, in a way, software development house, in a way the support side of any solutions. And so we had multiple hats on the day, which again it could be a bit confusing to potential customers or people at the show. Just a marketing lesson really for the future, try to separate them out. It is difficult because we use the MultiPlug to develop the solutions. We are also creating the MultiPlug under a different hat. So naturally there's going to be a bit of confusion. Ultimately the customers or potential customers will just want solutions. They don't really need to know the detail. However, quite a few people approached us who were actually engineers, who were actually solution engineers. They wanted to know about the MultiPlug or what we could offer. So actually the detail did help in that situation. If I was a a high-level salesperson at that point. I may have given them very wishy-washy answers when I was able to give them quite detailed answers of how, one, we can use the multiplug, but two, we can mature the multiplug with them as they see fit. The Brainboxes partnership is really going to help us. Quite a few customers were going over to RS Components who had the demo of the other Brainbox equipment, and then they were coming over to our stand to see how a software company could use that Brainboxes hardware, and we were able to demonstrate that. Some customers already had Brainboxes hardware, so that was a great situation, and those people were not decision makers, but they were some IT level people in the companies, which is exactly the kind of level we were trying to target from the start. We didn't think that would be achievable, because quite often the management types of these companies come to these trade shows. I think over time it will literally be a trade show. It will be a situation where engineers have got problems and they will be going to these shows and taking modular bits of everyone's solution or product and putting it together themselves, and that's exactly what I believe Industry 4.0 will be in the future. Of course, at the show, to create the buzz, we have all the big names there, big names that have kind of migrated towards manufacturing, but they are just big names. And then you get the platforms that are actually grown over the last 15 years towards the manufacturing industry, and then you get us who are kind of in between. We understand IoT. You can repackage our solutions onto other industries, and that doesn't have to be manufacturing. We're just targeting it because that's our background. But if someone wants just to remotely monitor some sensors, then we can do that. So that was from the launch of the multiplug, that was a great thing to get, a good milestone to have. What will happen now is there'll be a more of a digital soft launch, where all the marketing material will now be created after the new year to launch it properly, and then we can sort of spec up from a company point of view. In a bootstrapping situation, we can now spec up what sort of team we need to build to move it forward, and to be ready to support customers. In the interim time, we will be constantly looking out for partners to create pop-up solutions, simple solutions that can give us scenarios to say this is how the multiplug can be used. So in conclusion, our experience of the trade show went perfectly. Everything that we planned to happen happened. Nothing broke, nothing went wrong. A few oversights maybe with the marketing, but that's just a lesson learnt. We'll increase that and improve that for our next trade show, whenever that may be. Maybe the Smart Factory Expo 2019, or it might be a trade show in between that, maybe an electronics focused trade show, or maybe it's back down to becoming digital and sticking online and just creating YouTube videos to increase the marketing effort.